I've generated millions of dollars solely off of scaling sales teams within my own businesses, and I've also consulted multiple other businesses to multiple seven figures off of scaling their sales teams as well. So you gotta imagine at this point, I've trained close to a couple hundred closers. And I get a DM, it feels like, or multiple DMs really, every single day of people asking me, hey Hunter, I have a great product or service or blah, 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 but I really need to scale my sales team. Can you send me somebody? And I'm just thinking, hey, if I were to send you the greatest closer in the world, they're gonna leave because you don't know how to manage and grow a sales team at scale. So I've made a ton of mistakes over the years, and at this point, it only took us like 4.5 months to scale my new company to $330,000 a month, and we're pushing for $1 million a month in 2025, and I'm gonna document the process. So in this video, I'm gonna teach you guys 9 tips to build a sales team at scale. All right, number 1, you need to be able to hire at scale. Now, this is obviously the first one because everybody's asking me, hey Hunter, can you source a closer? As if they don't know where to find one. Let's say you have $0. You can easily go post inside of Facebook business groups. If you're a social media marketing agency, go post in those groups. If you're an info product, go post in those groups. If you're any sort of product or service, there's multiple groups on Facebook, Discord, groups where people hang out that you can just post job postings for free. Also, you should probably do a little bit of work into your own social media to build a brand. But the absolute easiest way is to just run application ads. Because most likely, if you're asking other people for closers or you're willing to pay a recruiter to place one, then people don't actually know what your company is or who you are. So then rather than go and spend money off of somebody that's just gonna be forced inside your business, I would just run application ads. And this is what we did inside of my first agency. So all we did was create little videos going over the job role. Hey, it's a remote closer. You show up, you take calls, you close. On-track earnings are anywhere from $80,000 to $120,000 a month. We're looking for hard workers, people that already know this CRM, and lastly, just please don't apply unless you have experience. So inside of these application ads, we would do like a long Google form, and we would require people to do long form answers. Because everybody knows when it comes to sales reps, these guys will most often be unorganized. You know, they're more of like a creative mindset. So really terrible at answering questions, really terrible inside of a CRM, and you probably don't want to deal with that. So when you're running your application ads, even if it's just like 50 bucks a day, what you want to do is have a long Google form about, you know, what's their sales psychology? Give an example of an objection you've overcome. What's your overall sales experience? How much revenue have you closed? What's your average close rate? And the number one thing that we added there, just to save us a ton of time, was to require a little Loom video at the bottom. Now, if people don't know what Loom is, it's just a free recorder, but if they can't go figure that out, they're not gonna be a fit for your company. So we would have them submit a 60 to 90 second video explaining why they'd be great at the role, and then a live example of them overcoming an objection that we would place inside of that form. Now, here's the thing. If any of these videos were less than 60 seconds or more than 90, we would immediately throw the application out. You want people that can actually follow directions, because if they can't, you're gonna be training these people into oblivion, they're never gonna work out, and you're gonna have a miserable time, and you're never gonna be able to do this at scale. So this is the number one most important thing, because everything else we're gonna go over today really crumbles unless you can hire at scale. So go do free job postings, run a couple applications ads, and maybe even check out things like Indeed or ZipRecruiter. Number 2 is everyone is replaceable. So, unless you can hire at scale, nobody's really replaceable. So the problem was when I first hired people, it was off my personal network. You know, these people really sucked at sales, but I was bringing them in. I was almost doing them a favor to teach them for free all of the things that I learned in sales. They still weren't that good, and I kept them. And I'll give you another example on the other end of things. I consulted for a dating coach with 1 million YouTube subs, and we scaled that sales team up to 8 closers that were all generating around like $80,000 a month. Now, there was one closer there who was way more talented than all the rest. This person was just absolutely fantastic on all the calls. He was even good at the CRM, being organized, like all these things that you would just picture a perfect closer. But the problem was this person was a Madonna asshole. They would round up the closers after hours and show them that marketing's failing and we should go after this person and this person shouldn't have that job because they're not doing well. And it actually stirred up so much drama over the course of like 60 days that half of the closer team, so 4 people, were thinking about leaving overnight, which would have cut the company's revenue in half overnight off of one fucking person. So we needed to set an example inside the company that, hey, even though this person is great and we should all strive to be like them on their sales calls, they're not a culture fit. So we're gonna gonna cut this person. So we ended up cutting that person a little bit too late, a couple of the closers left, but it was a huge learning experience from us that everyone is replaceable. Of course, if they're bad, but also if they're good, but not a culture fit. Number 3 is to have the onboarding already built. So I can't tell you how many times when I first started training closers, I would go through and basically redo everything that I've already trained this last closer. Maybe it took me 3 to 6 months to train up a closer, a new one came in, and I had to go through that 3 to 6 month process again. Now this sounds simple, but most people don't do it, and I have no idea why. So what we eventually did to save ourselves 3 to 6 months off of every single hire, we built a training portal inside our company of tons of call examples of closes, different calls that were lost because of this objection so that we could train on them, a bunch of CRM trainings, and then a bunch of scripts and just overall master classes on how to actually sell the product or service. So what we would do is anytime we would hire a new closer, we would tell them for their first week, just go through this training. Like don't even talk to us for the first week. And then starting the next week, we would start drilling them on the things that they were supposed to have learned. Now we would set expectations with these people up front, but if they weren't ready the following Monday with everything already washed, prepared, questions written down, and ready to review things, we would literally cut them that day. Sales is the #1 job role out of everything else that if they mess up simple things, they're more than likely not gonna course correct, and they're always gonna be that way. So have your training resources built out in School, Circle, Kajabi, literally whatever, go high level, but have it there ready for people so that you can stop wasting time training the same things that you've been doing for a very long time. Number 4 is to take 6s to 10s. Now, more often than not, the people that have trouble scaling sales teams are normally startup companies. So what they do incorrectly is they hire their sales talent based on potential. They're like, yeah, I think this guy sounded great on the interview. He doesn't have a ton of experience, but I think we could train him up. And I'm just telling you right out the gate, you could literally train anybody up to KPI inside of a sales team, or you should be able to because that's a great sales manager. The problem is you as the business owner or sales manager have to look at your highest leverage actions. So if you're hiring like a 1 or 2 or a 3 on the skill level chart and you're trying to take them all the way to a 10, that may take you 9 to 12 months. Versus if you take like a skill level 6, who these people should come already with some sales experience, they're already in another company or closed for their own offer, they know their close rate, they know how much revenue they've generated, and maybe they are really good and have a lot of potential, but they just have so much more to step into. That person might only take you 2 to 3 months to train up to KPI. So because managing a sales team is very time intensive, you can't waste your time with the 1s, 2s, and 3s. Only hire what you deem to be like a level 6 skill set out of 10 and then take them to those 10s. We're not running a charity here, baby. We're running a sales team. Number 5 is a 5-4-3-2 cadence. So what I do whenever I'm scaling up a sales rep to KPI is the first week after they go through training resources, I meet with them every single day. So I'm meeting with them in the day and then maybe letting them take a call or 2. Now week 2, at the end of the week on a Friday, I'm gonna give them a full day of sales calls. So when they come back that Monday, we're gonna go ahead and review everything. So week 2, we're still doing our trainings every single day, but Friday, and they're gonna take sales calls all that day. Now week 3, we only meet 3 times. So these guys have about a half calendar, so maybe 3 or 4 meetings every single day. And now 3 times a week, we're gonna go over sales call reviews, master classes, and trainings, and bring them on with the other closers as well, so they can see their calls and how they're overcoming objections and what their mindset and just processes are to overcome things and get the most juice out of the leads that they have in front of them. Then the last week, they should be on that full calendar and only block 2 hours a week to go over sales trainings with the whole rest of the closer team so that they can be held accountable to the exact same standard that everyone else is. Now, after you go through a 5-4-3-2 cadence, we're still meeting with closers every single day, even if just for like 15 minutes. That could be a quick check-in, a quick call, quick checkup on Slack, quick message. It's really just a check-in. So these meetings are specifically for call reviews and trainings, but those little 15-minute cadences, we still do those every single day. Number 6 is affirmation is king. What a lot of startups do incorrectly is think that money is the only driving motivator for sales. And it is for the most part, don't get me wrong. But there will come a threshold when your closer can only get paid so much unless you give them huge bonuses or a different in a commission percentage. And that could be really costly to the company. What people don't realize is that a lot of sales reps, they really enjoy, even if they don't say, being paid in status. This is posting in your company Slack for the entire company to see, hey, Hunter did an amazing job today. He's working his ass off. He's calling his leads. He's taking his own show rate into his own hands. He has massive ownership, and the guy is absolutely killing it, and letting the rest of your entire company join in and give this guy praise. You should also have some zaps and automations that after every single closed deal inside of your company, it should fire off into your company Discord or Slack for the entire company to give this one person affirmation. And you should make it a requirement for marketing and client success and product and everybody else to come in and join in that win, so that that closer and sales rep can actually get that affirmation that they are looking for. I'll just give you a quick story on this too, because I made this mistake in my first company, and we had an amazing closer. It was somebody that I didn't listen to myself now, and I took from like a 3 to a 10. It took me a year and a half. This person was talking about leaving because, they didn't say it, but they just kind of felt extended from the company. They didn't really talk to anybody, and they just kind of clocked in and clocked out and did their sales and left. They didn't feel connected. So they were talking about going to another offer and another sales team. And what I put together was, this sales team's really built out and they have more of a community. So we immediately implemented all these different things I just talked about in Affirmation. We set up a wins channel. Every single deal that was closed, the whole company joined in. We moved to the 5-4-3-2 cadence. I was meeting with them more often. We were doing more training. They were talking to the company. And at that point, they actually stayed for another year and a half until I sold the company. So it just goes to show you that specific sales rep was making a lot of money, but when they feel disconnected from the company and they feel like their efforts are going in vain and it's all just about money, they are going to care less about the core principles of what your company does. They will only care about the money unless you give them affirmation too. So your sales reps, if they don't get affirmation, they'll turn into mercenaries where all they care about is money. You want company evangelists that know your core principles and they will die for it. Number 7 is that your sales team should do the upsells. Now, I made this mistake inside of my first company where I thought, hey, let's make the account managers do the upsell because they're making this great relationship with people, and they should really like them by now. So they would probably have an easier time, I think, upselling people. But what I found was it was actually the exact opposite. So account managers, client success managers, whatever you want to call them, we don't train them directly on sales. So they're already at a loss. They're way worse than the sales reps that we have at actually closing deals. And what they were doing is just like sending a payment link like, hey, do you like this? Would you be interested if we did this, this, and this too? The prospect would be like, yeah, that sounds good. And they're like, okay, here's a payment link. Go ahead and do that. But that upsell requires another call. So what we found was when we sent the upsells back to our closers, we had a higher close rate, we made way more money, and the third thing that it actually did for us was force the sales reps to create better expectations on their initial call. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gotten that opportunity to upsell in the first place. So when you have sales disconnected from a client the second that they sign up and swipe a credit card, what you'll notice is they can say whatever they want to get them to join, and now it's client success's problem. But if you include the sales in the back end for things like upsells and cross sells, well, now that sales rep is going to be way more incentivized to actually set proper expectations so that when this person comes back to them, they can be like, yep, it's everything that you said it was going to be. Why wouldn't I want to do more? So that they can just easily close them on that call. 8 is to teach the prospect, not the product. So if you guys watch a lot of my videos, I always kind of crap talk the product specialist, but I'm gonna do a little damaging admission here. When I'm building a company, I like to take myself off the sales calls because I've noticed that I do this too. So in our most recent company, we scaled it up to $330,000 a month in 4.5 months. And what I noticed is when I hop on sales calls, I actually have a lower closing rate than the people that I trained in the first place. And it's just because I get into this mode where, I'm working all day on our product and our unique selling proposition and all these new things and better things that we have than everybody else. But what I'm noticing is I'm taking that onto sales calls. So I'm really focusing on being that product specialist on the sales calls when I should be the prospect specialist. So we like to keep our reps willfully ignorant. So you as a sales manager, business owner, whoever you are on the other end, you can easily create a VSL, video sales letter, basically explaining everything about your company, what you do, so that not only will that help with the show rate and prospects can come better prepared, but it allows your sales team to not have to be a product specialist, because if they become that, their sales are naturally going to go down. So have them focus on going way deeper inside, finding out what's going on with the prospect. And you can even SOP this. Go into your target market, talk about things like what they like to do, where they like to hang out. For us, it was chiropractors. So we went into chiropractic groups. We went into the chiropractic meme groups. We knew all the schools that they went to. We knew most often than not what all these chiropractors, what type of status they were trying to achieve, which is like, you know, being their own little info product for other chiropractors. So we knew all about them, but the sales reps did not have to know all about the product. It wasn't until we focused deeply on the niche and why people were here in the first place and establishing the gap and doing all the things and the sales trainings that I do here on YouTube that we had an amazing close rate. So you want your sales reps to be willfully ignorant on the product, let the VSL do that work, and have your sales reps focus on that prospect. Number 9 is to actually have a scorecard. So this is something that blows my mind that most companies do not have at all. So if you guys are trying to hire a closer, you need expectations to be set up front. Now what I'm gonna go ahead and do is actually share my Google Doc of a scorecard that we used inside of that dating coach that had 8 closers actually absolutely crushing it. So I'm gonna throw it up, maybe my editor can throw it up here on screen. But here's what a good scorecard should look like. And it's all about expectations going into it. So when you're doing an interview with somebody, you're gonna refer to the scorecard, and every time you do a performance evaluation with your closer, you're going based on the expectations that you set in the first place. It's funny because when you're hiring people, it's almost the same thing that you do when you're closing clients. You're setting expectations and then doing reviews and going back to the expectations that you set in the beginning. Everything is kind of like that circle of life, that stuff is just everywhere. So basically what we go through in our scorecard is all of our company core values, which radical transparency, speed is king, better every day, and hunger. So this is what we look for in our closers. Then we go through the comp plan and, you know, a bunch of bonuses on here that people can get, average closer and what they make and what they produce. Now here's the position description. So time, you'll be expected to do this. Daily tasks, you'll be expected to do that. Compensation, bonuses, what happens when you don't hit KPI. So the other thing is, when I go back and we talk about closers being replaceable, I notice a lot of people are afraid to have uncomfortable conversations with their closers like, hey, you gotta get your shit together or you gotta get out. But if you set those expectations right correctly in the beginning, it's not gonna be a big deal because now you can just point back to the expectations. This, for me, an anxious person, when I wasn't good at having these hard conversations, I did find it really difficult to come to my closer and be like, hey man, you're underperforming, I need you to do better. It wasn't until I implemented an actual closer scorecard that I was able to just point back to expectations because it wasn't me giving them that information, it was the scorecard. So I'm like, hey Hunter, look at the scorecard, man. You're 2 months in. This is what we said. You're expected to hit KPI after your 2nd month here. So you're gonna have to figure it out this month. We're gonna have to do more call trainings, more call reviews. You're gonna have to review your own calls after hours, because what we can see here is if, you know, there's basically no exceptions to the standard unless we indicate otherwise and blah, blah, blah. So this means you gotta hit KPI regardless of whatever you got, vacations, days off, personal circumstances. So I know life's hard right now, but I really need you to lock in, okay? Because this is what we talked about in the beginning when we hired you. So this is what you could implement literally tomorrow to go out and hire a bunch of talented sales reps, train them up at scale, keep them really happy, turn them into evangelists, not mercenaries, keep them interested in the prospect, less in the product, and then hold them to expectations right out the gate with a scorecard. So these are all the mistakes that I've made in the last, like, I don't know, 7 or 8 years of my entrepreneurship journey. There's a ton of other videos on this channel if you guys want to show some of your sales reps or train yourself. And lastly, we are hiring inside of our business right now. So if you guys are somebody that's a really talented sales rep and you are at least the skill level 6 and you want to get to a 10, me and my team will personally help you train to be there. So on track earnings for us are anywhere from like $8,000 to $12,000 a month, but we can go over that another time. I'll include a link in the bio if you want to apply, but you have to be from the US. All right, guys, hope you got value out of the video. Please drop a like and share it with somebody. Thanks so much. See ya.